In case you haven't heard, there's an Irish Readathon! Hiya, so Leanne, Aoife, Stephen and I are hosting the Irish Readathon and I'm so freaking excited to be able to talk about this. It's my first time hosting a readathon. It's going to take place for the entirety of March, so the whole month is dedicated to reading Irish literature. Not just Irish literature, because you know, you can do what you want, but we're going to hopefully all read Irish literature and celebrate it because the Irish are fantastic. So we all came up with our own challenges, so I'm going to tell you what the challenge is and then how I'm fulfilling it. So it's an announcement video and a TBR video all in one. So Leanne came up with the challenge of reading a book that was published by an Irish author in the past 10 years. So surprise, surprise, I'm reading not one, but two Louise O'Neill books. Only one of them has been published yet, so I can only show you one, but I will be reading two. The first book I'm reading is Asking for It. I've talked about this loads, so if you haven't heard me talk about it, you're clearly new here. It's all about rape culture and consent and victim blaming, all that kind of stuff that makes you really sad but is really necessary conversation. So I'll be reading that, and I'll also be reading Almost Love, which is out on March 6th. It's her first adult book, because this is young adult, and it's going to be about basically a young woman, I think she's in her 20s, and she falls in love with a man who's in his 40s, and I think he becomes quite manipulative of her. It sounds good. Sounds like I will definitely relate as someone who always fancies men in their 40s. Yay! People are always talking about representation in fiction, and I feel like I have just been underrepresented with my daddy issues, so woo! Stephen is challenging us to read an Irish classic, which I'm delighted about because I always loved Irish classics in school. Thank you, Stephen. Well, no, it's okay. I've never read Dracula before, so I'm just gonna read that. I'm gonna at least try. I'm not very good with classics. You can tell that I'm so enthusiastic about it, obviously. So I'm gonna read Dracula. Apparently that's Irish. Growing up, I always thought it was really random how we celebrate Bram Stoker and Dracula so much. Like, there would just be like exhibits all about Dracula, and I'd be like, that's really random. Are the Irish really into vampires or something? Do you get this in other countries? Turns out it's Irish, so it kind of makes sense that we would be the ones celebrating it. So I'll be reading that, hopefully, if I can do it. Aoife wants us all to read a book based on Irish history, and this challenge I found a little bit more difficult because I'm only buying 5 books in 2018 and I already have all 5 picked out at this stage. So I was like, right, I can't buy a book, so I had to kind of just look for one that was in the public domain on Amazon. So I found Dubliners by James Joyce, which I'm hoping is going to be kind of historical. It sounds like it is because it's described as a short story collection which forms a naturalistic depiction of Irish middle class life in and around Dublin in the early years of the 20th century. Does that not sound like it's given an historical picture of what life in Dublin was like? If that's not historical, I don't know what is. Seeing as I'm a major feminist and I'm all into supporting women and stuff, makes sense that my challenge is going to be read a book by a female Irish author. So I know that I've technically got that ticked off the box with 2 Louise O'Neill books, but I'm also going to be reading Oasis by Aoife Barrett, which is a book that I bought way over a year ago. It's a dystopian novel as far as I can remember. I paid like €20 for it and I still haven't read it. I'm like, that was kind of a waste. I could have waited until they went on sale at least. No offense to the author, I'm sure it was well worth €20. She only wrote this when she was like 16, which is crazy. So I'm looking forward to reading that. I just read the blurb and it's about a virus wiping out humans, society collapsing, driving us to extinction, and the last surviving city is the glimmer of hope for the future. Sounds quite heavy for a very young teenager, but I'm really looking forward to it. Bonus challenge, woo! So it's basically to read a book with green on the cover. I plan to read Nothing Tastes as Good by Claire Hennessy. It's a book that I really loved when I read it, and it was one of my favourite books of all time. Turns out that she's not actually a great human, apparently. You know, I really looked up to her, and then I found out just last week, I think it was, that apparently she was going through lots of books on Goodreads that were diverse books, giving them all 1 stars. So this kind of left me stuck at the very last minute going, what book has green on the cover? So if you look very closely at the Ballymara roads, there's green, there is green there. I also have Silence of Goldfish, but I don't particularly want to read this, and I think this will work. I was actually thinking of using this for the historical challenge as well. It's the third book in the 4th Street series, which is about Irish people who travel over to Liverpool and they all live in the same streets. It's called the 4th Streets area. So, you know, I'm really looking forward to reading that, because the 4th Streets is a book that I cannot recommend enough. I haven't read it in a while, so I'm gonna probably have to read that as well, which means I have like 7 books to read or something now, even though I haven't read a proper book since like September or August last year. Fantastic. I'm dying for all this, trying to force myself to read loads of books. No, it won't be forcing, because I'm very happily taking part in the Irish Readathon and I'm so excited. If you want to take part, please let me know. If you make a TBR, definitely let me know, and let me read it or watch it or whatever medium you use to make it. Let me know, and then I will give you lots of love in the emotional sense, not physically. Obviously, you should check out my co-hosts, because they're all fantastic individuals and I love them so much. Like, genuinely, like, I'm not even saying this. I really admire them and I think that they're fantastic human beings. So please look at them, check them out, and take part in the readathon. Yay! Excitement! If you're not subscribed to me already and you like things to do with mental health and feminism in books or young adult fiction, then I would highly recommend that you give me a go, because that's what I talk about. Thanks very much for watching. Slán.